I tested this out on my own. I've got to make a little confession. Tested this out on my own before I actually went live, so that I could make sure that there was enough information to do this, because that is my initial disclaimer. There must be enough information about a person available, whether it's you, whether it's a person, a celebrity figure, someone. If you want to figure out the birth time, there needs to be enough information available. And usually the person needs to be a little bit older, right? So that you can have that information available. When we are rectifying birth times, we're using big events, things like marriages, things like deaths, things like big events. So, right, if you, for example, don't remember your child's birthday because you've got 5 of them, and how are you going to keep track of 5 birth times? Unless your child is older, there's going to be not as much of a chance, right? Because they haven't had enough of those big events happen yet. So what we're going to do here is we are going to rectify Joe Exotic's birth time using his Wikipedia page information. Now, there are a few other bits of information. Nope, 1997, it's right there. Okay. And I know what happened in October because we did look that up. So there are a few other bits of information that we looked up that aren't on the Wikipedia page, but I'll just explain them as I go along. So hi, everybody. Say hello if you're here. I can see there's quite a few people. Hello, hanging out with me live today. So this is something that I've done for many, many, many people out there. Not just, students and clients, but I have also done this with like Elizabeth Warren. I've done this with the Fire Festival guy, right? Billy McFarland. This is something that I do quite frequently. So it's something to have fun with, but it's also something that you can use if you're not super sure about your birth time or someone's that you know. So let's get started. So like I said, we're going to need the basic information, right? So we've got the birth date. That is one of the most important pieces of information. And we've got the city and state. Perfect. So we've got everything that we really need to know in order to make this happen. Hey, Tara. Hey, Hannah. It's nice to see you here. So what we're doing is we're using this app. God, I love the internet. Isn't it so great, you guys, that these tools are just readily available to us? I can't imagine being an astrologer of like the 70s or like of the, I don't know, like early days, right? It just baffles me. That was a lot of skill that they needed. I'm blessed to live in the technological era. So what we're doing here is we're using this app to basically reverse engineer a birth time, okay? So we've plugged his birthday in, we've plugged the city and state in, and what we've done here is we've set the birth time for noon local time, plus or minus 12 hours, because we don't know the birth time at all. So if you have a window, if you're like, oh, I think I was born between 3 and 4 a.m., you could set that to 3 a.m. plus or minus 2 hours, and get a little bit more specific there. But because we don't have that, we are just going to do noon plus or minus 12 hours. And I'm going to have to plug that information back in. It was Kansas and Garden City. Okay. No, what, really? Okay. Garden City. Awesome. Okay. Continue. So this is going to bring me a pop-up. And this pop-up, what it's doing is it is helping us determine what his rising sign is. So I feel like I shared this in the right way that you should still be able to see the pop-up, but I'm going to linger for just a moment so that I can, okay, there it is. Good. All right. So, we can go through here, and your rising sign tells us about, your first impression. So it's a lot about the physical appearance, right? You can see like a lot of, I'm Scorpio rising, for example, and a lot of like Scorpio rising celebrities, we all sort of look the same, we got the same eyebrows, like those deep set eyes and the thick eyebrows, right, is a big one for the Scorpio rising. So you kind of want to look at some of these features, and remember, it's not just physical features, but also that like psychological and those like first interests, right? So like, what's the first impression we get of Joe Exotic? Now, these are some of the questions that are easier to answer about celebrities, even because we don't know them on that deep level, do we? We know them on that kind of surface level. So for me, it felt really clear that he was an Aries rising, just those eyebrows. He just is like a rugged, like mannish sort of dude, even though, yes, he was gay, or is, he's not dead. Come on, Tiffany. But overconfident, right? Just the sex, I don't know, just something about him really screams Aries rising to me. So, you know, if you don't feel like you have a solid answer for some of them, you can play with it. But the app will deliver like an error basically that tells you, oh, no birth times fit the events that you know, checked off. So it will deliver like a no, that doesn't compute basically if it doesn't work. So I believe that he's Aries rising. So let's move on. So now what we're going to do, now this list will change depending on, you know, literally like this series of events possible, right? So like this is limited to possibilities that happen for Aries rising people at, you know, this day, born, you know, in this location. So it's already getting a little bit more specific. So what we're going to do is we're going to answer yeses or nos here. And I don't remember, I believe that there were, I did this one and I said no for this. And then I said yes and yes for this, obviously. And I believe that that's all I answered, which is very interesting. Now, sometimes this list can be really, really, really long. And so you want to try and answer as much as possible, okay? Now, for these events, right, and some of these as well, you know, we can use that Wikipedia page, right? And this is only going to be relevant, obviously, if you're doing this for a public figure. But I know that a lot of you out there are like, I want to know more about this person or this celebrity or, you know, this, you know, and I've got to tell you, most of them do have their birth times on the internet, like God bless America. But sometimes you're going to have to figure it out yourself, right? So situations like this, this is when we will rectify the birth time. So let's go back to this little window here. And I know that he was first married, right? So he's had 4 husbands, actually. If you go to his personal life, he had a husband, Brian, who passed away in 2001. So I kind of don't want to answer that particular question, because when you do put these in here, if you've been married more than once, you want it to be the month and date of your first marriage. Okay, that's very important. All of you should be the first time it happened, first divorce, birth of first child, right? Obviously some of these, right? But if you've had like 2 siblings die, you're going to want to, it sounds a little crass, but pick the one that died first. The only ones that are different are the last 3, and those are just going to be the most significant events that have happened. Okay. So, I know that his brother died in October of 1997. So I'm going to plug that in. And I know, wait, where is that? Okay, there it is. I know obviously that he went to jail in September. We can look here, arrested September 2018. Okay, so September 2018. Now, I would say a pretty significant extreme situation for him like would be in October of 2017, because that is when his partner accidentally committed suicide. My God, that was a really traumatic scene for me, you guys. I don't know if you guys have like spoiler alert or whatever, but like, yeah. So that was an extreme situation. I feel like that's all I put in, but I might have put in one more, the marriage one. Let me just put in 2001 just in case. And again, if you don't know the month, feel free to put in the year at least. And boom, there we have it, right? And so this says most likely time of birth, 9:03 a.m. Okay, and so we can already see how this takes shape. His rising sign is at the very tail end of Aries here. We've got Taurus intercepted in the first house, and that doesn't really surprise me that much because he is very much an touchy-feely, sensual sort of dude. What else do we've got going on here? We got a Leo Mars. Of course we do. All right, cool. So now that we've taken a look at this and we can see 9:03 a.m., let's go ahead and, like I said, I already did this. So I plugged in his birthday and the time and the city, and this is what we've got here, you guys. So we've got an emotional manifester. Now, this is the thing that I really had to point out. I died earlier when I actually got his birth time and it was super confirmed. And okay, so I got to tell you guys about this. So it was just really obvious to me that he was an unconscious emotional authority. And as an emotional authority myself, I feel like it's my responsibility to let you know that unconscious emotional authorities are generally very, very selfish people. It takes actual effort to empathize because they are not emotional empaths, right? So when he said after Sav got her arm bitten off, he was like, this is going to devastate me financially, or I'll never financially recover from this or something, which is so inappropriate. It's not about you, dude. She just got her arm torn off, but that is exactly what an emotional authority would do, make it all about them. But what really, really shook me was that he is a 4-6 profile. Now, this line 6, I talk about this quite frequently. I've shared this before when I've talked about Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins is a 6-2 profile. Now, this line 6 is one of the most unique in the human design system, because the person who has a line 6 has 3 distinct periods in life, okay? So it's pre-Saturn return, between returns, and then post-return. So we've got before age 30, between 30 and 60, and then 60 and on, okay? And so something that I think is really important to show you guys right now is actually how our natal chart factors into the human design system, so you can get a full picture of what it is that I'm talking about. Okay, so when I saw that he was a 4-6, I had to jump. I was like, his Saturn must be in Aquarius. And bing, bang, boom, Saturn in Aquarius. This is no joke, you guys. So what the line 6 does, it's called the role model, as you can see here. And in the first phase of life, they're very experimental, trial and error. Let me do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then when they go, quote, on the roof, when they are 30 years old, when they hit that Saturn return, that is when they experience, right, that role model shift. And he was a role model, whether you like it or not, whether you approve of his actions or not. There were many, many, many people who thought that he was awesome, right? And he even ran for office, and like, can you imagine? I can't believe 19% of the vote for governor. Anyway, so up on the roof, he was someone that people looked to, right, for his information, for his advice, for his, expertise. People would just go and see like this empire that he's built, right? Now, what happens when you go into that third phase of life and you've got your second Saturn return when you're in your, late 50s, early 60s, is, for some people who are the role model, that line 6, coming off of the roof is not necessarily so graceful. We saw it last, I want to say season, right? Because when Saturn was in Capricorn with Tony Robbins came off the roof. There were all of those Me Too allegations. I don't, necessarily feel like it was a huge tarnish to his brand, but that is kind of what happens with a line 6 if they're not careful about the way that they're living when they are the role model. So, what we see here is that last week is when Tiger King came out, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was last week, if not the week before. And that's when Saturn moved into Aquarius. So literally exactly when his second Saturn return happens, exactly when he's coming off of the roof, this massive, and you guys cannot deny that, like, if something is released on Netflix, it's international, it's worldwide. It's not just like, oh, this was a Lifetime documentary, or this was even an HBO doc. Like, nothing has the reach that Netflix does, right? And we can see evidence of that when we look at like reality stars of, major Fox shows versus reality stars of Netflix shows. Like, the celebrity is incomparable, right? So like the celebrity, in a way that Joe is experiencing is exactly what he doesn't want when he's coming down off the roof. And so his whole reputation, his name, everything, what there was is completely being tarnished. And that's just very much off the roof behavior, or falling off the roof behavior, as I was sharing with my boyfriend earlier. When I saw this, I just could not believe, right? So anyway, thank you for joining me today, you all. Did I just really say you all? Like, what am I? So thanks for sharing, for coming today, y'all. Super appreciate you showing up live for this rectification. I know that so many people out there are, interested not only in rectifying their own birth times. Maybe you don't have your birth certificate, or maybe it's a loved one that you want to understand a little bit better, and you just don't have that birth time. So if you didn't catch it at the beginning, make sure that you watch the replay, and let me know if this was helpful for you. And if you need a little bit of support getting your chart rectified, this is something that I help people with inside the Penta. This is something that I help personal clients with. So definitely reach out if you're interested in hearing more about those two things. So that's all. I hope that you all have a beautiful rest of your day.